Every winter morning, all across this country, somebody bends down at the wood stove, scoops out the cold gray ash from the night before, carries that bucket out the door, and dumps it in the trash. Out it goes with the coffee grounds and the eggshells, waste, they call it, the dirty gray left over at the bottom of the fire, good for nothing. And so, a thing that did real work in every farmhouse in this country for 300 years gets thrown away by the bucketful before breakfast. Now, I want you to sit with this for a moment. That gray powder you're about to throw out will feed your garden. It will kill the slugs eating your cabbages. It will give you traction on an icy step when the salt truck never comes. It will make soap. It will scour a greasy pot clean and shine the black glass on your stove door. It will take the stink out of an outhouse and the damp out of a cellar. It will keep the mites off your hens. It will help you store eggs and apples through the winter. And it will smother a grease fire on your stove in 2 seconds flat. 1 free bucket of gray ash, 9 real jobs, and most folks pay good money for a different product to do every single one of them while throwing the answer in the trash. My name is Elias Yoder. I am Amish and I farm in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. Out behind my barn, there's a wooden ash hopper my grandfather built before I was born. And in all my life, I have never once seen a Yoder carry a bucket of wood ash to the trash. The ash goes to the garden, to the hens, to the soap kettle, to the cellar, to the icy walk. My grandfather had one rule that he said more than any other, and it was this: waste nothing. Not the rainwater, not the heat going up the chimney, and not the ash in the bottom of the stove. Now I'm going to be honest with you right at the start, the way I always am, because this is one where a careless hand can get into trouble. Wood ash is strong stuff. It is caustic, alkaline, the very thing that makes the lye, that makes the soap, and that same strength means you treat it with respect, with gloves and care, the same as I will tell you each time it matters, and not every ash will do. There is a right ash and a wrong ash, and using the wrong one will do you harm instead of good. I will tell you plainly which is which before we are through. Stay with me, and by the end, you will never look at that bucket the same way again. Let me start with what wood ash actually is, because once you understand it, all 9 jobs make plain sense, and you will see they are not 9 tricks at all. They are 2 simple things doing 9 jobs. Think about a tree. All its life, it stands there and pulls minerals up out of the ground through its roots. Potassium, calcium, phosphorus, magnesium, a little of nearly everything in the soil, drawn up year after year and built into the wood. Now you cut that tree, you split it, you burn it in your stove. The fire drives off the part that came from the air, the carbon and the water, up the chimney as smoke and steam, but it cannot burn the minerals. The minerals do not go up the chimney, they stay behind, all of them concentrated down into that handful of gray powder at the bottom of the firebox. So what you're holding in that ash bucket is the whole mineral wealth of a tree gathered over a lifetime, left for you in a form you can pour through your fingers. That is the first thing. Wood ash is mineral rich, and the richest mineral in it is potassium, what the old folks called potash. It is one of the 3 things every plant needs most to grow. The second thing is this: wood ash is strongly alkaline, the opposite of acid. When water touches it, it makes a harsh, slippery alkaline solution. Run enough water slowly through a barrel of ash, and you get lye, strong enough to make soap, strong enough to burn your skin. That alkaline strength is the other half of the secret. Mineral rich on the one hand, alkaline on the other. Hold those 2 facts in your mind. And now let me show you the 9 jobs, because every one of them comes from one or the other of those 2 simple things. The first job, and the one my people have leaned on the longest, is feeding the garden. This is the potash at work. Your tomatoes, your beans, your fruit trees, they are hungry for potassium. It is what builds strong stalks, fat roots, and good fruit and flower instead of just leaf. A bag of potassium fertilizer at the garden store will cost you real money, and it is mostly the same potash that is sitting free in your ash bucket. So in the late winter and early spring, you take your wood ash and you scatter it thin over the garden beds and rake it in, and you are giving the soil back the very minerals the fire took out of the wood. But there is a second gift here, and it is the alkaline side. A great deal of garden soil, especially in the rainy eastern half of this country, turns sour over time, too acid. And sour soil locks up the food in the ground so the plants cannot reach it. The old way to sweeten sour soil is to spread lime on it, and you pay for that lime by the bag. Wood ash does the very same work. It is alkaline, it sweetens the soil, it lifts it up out of the sour, and it works faster than the bagged lime because it is finer. So your ash does two garden jobs at once: feeds the soil and sweetens it. Now here is the honest word, and you must hear it or you will do harm, because ash sweetens the soil. You must never use it on the plants that like their soil sour. Blueberries, azaleas, rhododendrons, and to a fair degree your potatoes, these want acid ground, and a dose of ash will set them back hard. And even on the plants that like it, you do not dump it on thick. A light scattering raked in, a coffee can or two spread over a garden bed, not a great pile. Test your soil if you can, go easy if you cannot, and keep it well away from the blueberry patch. Used with that sense, it is the finest free fertilizer a homestead has. The second job is killing the pests that eat your garden, and this one is the dry powder at work. Go out at dawn after a damp night and look at the holes chewed in your cabbage leaves, your lettuce, your hostas. Slugs and snails did that, sliding along on their soft, wet bellies in the night. Now here is the thing about a slug. It cannot cross a band of dry wood ash. The ash is fine and drying and alkaline, and to that soft, wet body, it is misery. It pulls the moisture right out of them, and the alkali burns. So you take your dry ash and you lay a ring of it a couple of inches wide right around the base of the plants you want to protect, or along the edge of the whole bed. The slugs come to that line in the night and they will not cross it. A light dusting of ash over the leaves will also turn away the cabbage worms and the beetles and keep the ants from running their trails. The honest limit is the same one that runs through half of these jobs. It must be dry. The first rain or a heavy dew washes your ring away and dulls it, and you lay it down again. So this is a fair weather guard, renewed after the wet. But on a dry spell, when the slugs are worst, a free ring of ash around your cabbages will save the crop, and you paid nothing and put no poison on the food you're going to eat. The third job is winter traction and melting ice, and this is one city folks forget entirely. Come the ice storm, everyone runs to the store for a bag of ice melt or rock salt, $10, $15 a bag, and it sells out the first day. Meanwhile, your stove has been making the answer all winter. Wood ash thrown down on an icy path or an icy step does two things. First, the grit of it gives you traction at once, the same as throwing sand, so your boot grips, and you do not go down and break a hip, which for an older person is no small thing. Second, the ash is dark, and being dark, it soaks up what little sun there is and helps the ice underneath it melt faster than bare ice would. And here is why I favor it over the salt, beyond the price. Salt eats your concrete, rusts your car, kills the grass and the plants along the walk, and burns the pads of the dog's feet. Wood ash does none of that. It will not rot your concrete, and come spring, whatever ash washed off into the garden bed is just more food for the soil. The one honest caution is to knock your boots well at the door, because ash tracked across a kitchen floor makes a gray smear, a small price for not falling on the ice. The fourth job is the oldest and the most surprising to modern folks, and that is making lye, and from lye, soap. This is the full strength of the alkaline side. Before you could buy a bar of soap or a jug of cleaner anywhere, Every farm made its own, and it started right here in the ash. My grandfather's ash hopper, the wooden one behind the barn, was built for exactly this. You fill it with hardwood ashes, and you pour water slowly through the top, and it trickles down through all that ash and comes out the bottom as lye water, a brown, slippery, powerful liquid. The old test was to float an egg in it. If the egg floated with a circle the size of a coin showing above the water, the lye was strong enough. Too weak and it sank, too strong and you would add a little water. Then you take that lye and you cook it together with fat, the lard and tallow from your own butchering, the grease you saved all year, and the two of them join into soap. That is all soap has ever been. Fat and lye married together by heat. The lye from your ash and the fat from your animals, and you have the soap to wash your body, your clothes, your dishes, and your floors, made from two things you would otherwise have thrown away. Now, I must give you the strong safety word here, the strongest in this whole video. Lye made from ash is caustic. It will burn your skin and blind your eye if you are careless with it. You wear gloves, you wear eye protection, you keep the children and the animals well clear, and you never make it in an aluminum pot because the lye eats aluminum. You use iron, enamel, or stainless. Treated with respect, with gloves and care and patience, it is one of the oldest crafts there is and a deeply satisfying one. Rushed or handled careless, it will hurt you. So go slow and go gloved. In the fifth job comes straight out of the fourth, and it is cleaning and scouring without making full soap at all. You do not have to brew a whole batch of lye soap to put the ash to work in the house. A little damp wood ash on a rag is a fine, gentle scouring paste. That same alkaline strength cuts grease, and the fine grit polishes. The job most folks know it for even now is the glass door on a wood stove. By spring, that glass is black and baked with creosote, and nothing in a spray bottle touches it. But take a damp cloth, dip it in fine ash, and rub, and that black baked-on soot wipes away like magic because you are cutting the grease with the alkali and scrubbing it with the grit at the same time. It is the only thing I have ever found that truly cleans stove glass, and it costs nothing. The same paste of damp ash will scour a greasy roasting pan, brighten dull silverware, take the tarnish off brass and copper, and clean burnt food off a cast iron griddle without soap. The honest word is to go gentle and test a hidden spot first, because that same grit that polishes can scratch a soft or delicate surface if you bear down hard. For tough, greasy, baked-on jobs, though, on glass and metal and stone, a little damp ash and some elbow grease beats half the bottles on the cleaning aisle. The sixth job is taking out odor and damp, and this is the dry ash drinking up moisture and smell. Wood ash is thirsty and it is alkaline, and that pair makes it a fine deodorizer. The plainest example is the old outhouse or the modern composting toilet. A scoop of dry wood ash thrown down after each use covers the smell, dries the matter, and cuts the odor better than near anything, and it has been the country way of doing it forever. The same scoop sprinkled into your compost pile sweetens a pile that has gone sour and slimy and smelly, brings it back into balance, though again you go light, for too much ash will slow a compost down. A shallow tin of dry ash set in a damp cellar or a musty closet will pull moisture and smell out of the air the same way, the cousin of the charcoal trick I have shown you before, and when it is full of damp, you just dry it by the stove and use it again. A little ash will even take the smell off your hands after you have been cutting onions or cleaning fish, the alkali cutting the oils that hold the smell. It is the same property over and over, thirsty and alkaline, taking up the wet and the stink. The seventh job is for the chickens, and any of you who keep hens will thank me for this one. A hen keeps herself clean and free of mites and lice by taking a dust bath, fluffing down into fine dry dirt and working it through her feathers. The dust smothers the little parasites that would otherwise plague her. Now, wood ash, being fine and dry and alkaline, makes one of the very best dust bath materials there is. So in the corner of the run or the coop, you set out a low box or just a dry hollow, and you fill it with dry wood ash, often mixed with some plain dry dirt and a little sand. The hens will find it on their own and bathe in it with great pleasure, and that ash working down to the skin keeps the mites and the lice off them far better than fussing with powders and sprays. The honest words are two. Keep it dry and under cover, for wet ash is no good to a hen, and use only the clean wood ash I will describe at the end. Never ash with any treated wood or trash burned in it, because the birds breathe that dust and you must not give them anything foul. Clean, dry ash in a covered box, and your flock will largely keep itself free of pests for nothing. The eighth job is helping you store food through the winter, and this is the dry ash again, keeping things dry and keeping the pests away. There is an old way of keeping eggs that uses ash. You pack fresh, clean, unwashed eggs down in a crock or a box, each one buried in dry wood ash so none touch, point down, and set in a cool place. The dry ash seals the egg from the air and keeps it good for many weeks, far longer than it would last out on the counter. It is a cousin to the lime water way of keeping eggs that some of you know. The same dry ash poured around and over your stored root vegetables, your carrots and beets and turnips packed in a box, helps keep them dry and keeps the rot and the bugs from spreading through them. And a small handful of ash stirred through stored grain or dried beans, the way the old grain keepers did, coats the kernels and keeps the weevils from getting a start, much like the powder I told you about before. The honest limit is that this is for dry storage in a cool place, not a miracle, and you check your stores as you always should. But for keeping eggs and roots and grain through a winter with no power, free dry ash earns its place in the cellar. The ninth job I have saved for last, because it may be the one that saves your life or your house, and that is fire. It sounds backward. Ash from a fire used against a fire, but think on it. Ash does not burn, it has already burned. It is what is left when the burning is done. So a bucket of dry ash is a thing that smothers flame, and it sits right there by the stove where you most need it. A grease fire on the cook stove, the most dangerous fire in any kitchen, the one you must never throw water on because water sends the burning grease exploding outward. That fire you can smother. A scoop of ash thrown over a small grease fire, or better, the lid of the pot, cuts off its air and snuffs it. Keep a metal bucket of dry ash by the stove, and you have a free fire smotherer always at hand. And there is the other side of fire, keeping one alive. The last coals at night, raked together and buried under a blanket of their own ash, will hold their heat smoldering through the whole night, so that in the cold morning you rake off the ash, lay on your kindling, and the fire wakes again with no match struck. The old folks called it banking the fire, and the ash is the blanket that does it. So the same ash both kills a fire you do not want and keeps alive the one you do. Now, before I tell you the part that matters most, I owe you the most important honest words in this whole video, and you must not skip them, because here is where folks get into real trouble. Not every ash is good ash, and using the wrong kind will do harm. The only ash you use for any of these jobs is the clean ash from plain untreated wood. Hardwood is best and richest, your oak, your maple, your hickory, your fruit woods. That is it. What you must never use is the ash from anything that is not plain wood. Never the ash from painted or stained wood, never pressure-treated lumber, never plywood or particle board with their glues, never coal or charcoal briquettes, which are full of other things, never glossy printed paper, never cardboard with its inks and tapes, and never ever any plastic or trash burned in the stove. All of those leave poisons behind in their ash, and you do not want that ash on your food garden, in your soap, in your chicken's lungs, or anywhere near your family. Clean wood ash only. If you do not know what was burned, you do not use it for these things. And two more safety words. The first is the most overlooked killer with wood ash, and it is this. Wood ash holds live coals far longer than you would ever believe, days sometimes, deep down and unseen. Many a barn and many a house have burned to the ground because someone scooped ashes into a paper bag or a plastic bucket or a cardboard box and set it against the wall, and hours later it caught. So you always put your ashes into a metal can with a metal lid set on dirt or stone away from the house, and you let them sit and die out fully before you ever use them. Metal can, metal lid, away from anything that burns. Burn that into your mind. The second is the one I keep saying, gloves and eye protection anytime you're wetting the ash or making lye, because wet ash is caustic. Treat it with respect and it will serve you. Treat it careless and it will burn you, or worse. Now I want to take a moment because this is the part that matters, and it is bigger than a bucket of ash. Look back at what we just walked through. One free thing, the gray left over at the bottom of the fire, does the work of a bag of fertilizer, a box of garden lime, a jug of slug killer, a bag of ice melt, a jar of lye, a can of scouring powder, a box of deodorizer, a tub of mite powder, and a bag of egg storage supplies. 9 things you would otherwise buy, every one of them, and most folks throw the answer in the trash, buy the bucketful every winter morning without a second thought. How did that happen? How did a whole country forget a thing every farm wife and every farmer knew by heart 100 years ago? It is the same quiet answer I come back to every time on this channel. There is no money in ash. Nobody can sell you a bag of the thing already in your own stove. There is money, good steady money, in selling you the fertilizer in spring, the slug killer in summer, the ice melt in winter, and the cleaner all year round. 9 different products on 9 different shelves, each with a brand and a price, every one of them doing a job your free ash would do. So the stores stock the products and the advertisements sell the products, and nobody anywhere has the least reason to tell you that the answer to all 9 is already in your house, made fresh every time you light the stove, and headed for the trash. It is not a conspiracy. There is no villain who outlawed the ash bucket. It is simpler and quieter than that. A thing you can make for nothing cannot be sold, and a thing that cannot be sold gets no commercial, no shelf, no salesman, and within a generation or two, it is forgotten, not because it stopped working, but because nobody profited from remembering it. My people never forgot because we never gave ourselves over to buying every little thing in the first place. The ash hopper still stands behind my barn. The hens still bathe in the ash. The garden still gets its potash every spring. And a family that gets 9 jobs out of a thing the neighbors throw away is a family that needs to buy a little less and ask permission of no one. So here's what I want you to do, starting with the very next fire you burn. Get yourself a metal can with a metal lid, set it outside on the dirt away from the house, and from now on, your cold ashes go in there instead of the trash. Let them sit and die out fully. Then pick one job, the one that speaks to you. If you garden, scatter a little on the beds this spring, keeping it off the blueberries. If you keep hens, set out a box of dry ash and watch them bathe. If the ice is coming, fill a bucket for the steps. If your stove glass is black, wet a rag, dip it in ash, and watch the soot wipe away. Start with one, see it work with your own eyes, and the rest will not feel strange anymore. And tell me in the comments below, what have you been throwing your wood ash away into all these years? The trash, the woods, the field? And which of the 9 jobs are you going to try first? The garden, the hens, the soap, the ice, the cleaning? And if your grandmother or your grandfather kept an ash hopper or saved the ashes for something I did not name today, I want to hear it, because those old uses are the very knowledge I'm trying to keep alive on this channel. I read every single one. Next time, since we have been speaking of the soap that starts in the ash, I'm going to show you the whole of how my wife Esther renders the fat and cooks it down with the lye into hard, clean bars of soap, the old way, from the 2 things every other family throws out. It is the natural next step after today. Until then, save your ashes, waste nothing, and remember, The people who built this country with their hands knew things we are only just starting to remember.